In this video, you're going to see a trade that I took earlier this month that made me over $6,000 in exactly a minute and 18 seconds. You're going to see the full setup, how I read price action, where I found entry, and how much money this trade made me live. Then, after the video, I'm going to come back and break this trade down further so that you can replicate it yourself. By the way, if you'd like me to teach you live, click the link below. See you in a bit. All right, so Magnus made the point that this is looking bearish on the 5 minute. He's not wrong. If you just look at this section here, Magnus. However, look at this. Look at this move right here. I'm just going to draw. How do you draw just a line? I don't know how to do all that stuff. It's fancy stuff. Look at this. Okay. So when it moved from downward to these higher lows, yeah, yes. If you look just at this section here, right here, bearish, but you're forgetting about making higher lows here. Okay. So, the emotions to me are I'm bullish in sentiment, but I am well aware that we're range bound. And this continuation is not confirmed until we close above 620.33. Now, I think if this candle comes down and tests 619.87, now let me get rid of these lines. Now the trend that I'm looking at is this. And again, this is not going to be exact, but more like this. Okay. And oops, this is not going to be perfect, right? And so this candle, like I said, is going to be telling. Is it going to continue this downward range? We've been very bearish today, right? Very, very bearish. But you can see that from those original trend lines. And again, these don't have to be exact. In fact, don't trade off of breaking out of trend lines because they're not precise. These horizontal lines of support and resistance are precise. And so that's how we take entry. But do you see that difference? So if we break out here, we've broken that trend that was started here and continued by this higher low and would be further continued by breaking above this high. Make sense? That's what I'm saying. Tell me if you see that. Can people still hear me? Maybe I'm talking to myself again. Okay. 2 minutes. SPY, July 8th, 621 calls on a firm 5 minute candle close above 620.33. Confirming again that level, support, resistance, 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 resistance. Draw up to here, perhaps a higher low that will hopefully keep us in the trade. If it trades back down, up we go. And if it keeps us in this range for a bit, that's fine. But I do think a break above is a nice call entry, if that makes sense. Those 621 calls are at about 172, 171, 172 right now. That's fine. I've gotten about 5 spam calls in the last 5 minutes. And if it happens again, I'm throwing my phone out that window over there. 1 minute. Ooh, there was some strength there, huh? Still looking at July 8th, 621 calls on a firm 5 minute candle close above 620.33. Not looking like we'll take entry, but going to be watching closely. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Staying away. Don't gap up. Okay, good. A couple times we've seen candles close right at our level and then gap up with a volume imbalance and then use that and just shoot up. And I was like, please don't do that. There we go. Another confirmation. Beautiful. Loving this level right now. What's it going to do, Magnus? Is it going to move in that bearish trend or are we going to break it? Is it just me and Magnus? Oh, we got 137 people. Okay, I'm just joking. All right, Stephen, Jeff, Sean, Drew, Marlon, Todd, Jeff. Yeah, I know you guys are all here. Thank you. All right, Edward, Steve. We got a Steve, we got a Steven, we got a Newman. Let's see if we get entry here. Another good example of why we wait for 5 minute candle closes. Andy likes to say that, the legacy of a candle is confirmed by where it closes. At some point, closed right here. It looked like it was gonna maybe tease and take off, but again, did not close above, no entry, and this is looking pretty weak now. Magnus's sorcery took over. I'm kidding. I'm not certain about puts yet. We've got about 26 cents between this pink line and this blue line, which is, around, the low of the day. I know we had a couple wicks below this. Um, so we'll have to assess. To be honest, I said my sentiment was calls. I felt I had more clarity up than down. That doesn't mean that we won't take entry. I just want to, now that I'm assessing puts, I want it just a little more understanding of price action down here. So nothing yet. If we end up closing below on this candle, certainly not going to take puts. But unless we get a lot of confirmation, but I don't know if we have enough room to kind of thread this needle between the small range. So we'll see. We'll let this play out. We might be range bound still for a bit. Still haven't tested that 6/1987 just yet. Let's watch. Let's zoom way in today. Let's get a really good understanding of these wicks. We know what happened up here, right? Look at that. 20 seconds. Just gonna be watching. I'm not certain what will happen in this range, so I'm not looking at puts just yet. So just wouldn't mind if we hang here just for a second. 10 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Staying away. All right. A little bit of volume imbalance here. Went back and took that gap, pushing down. This looks very weak. There's our level. Can we get a couple confirmations and retests? No. I'm gonna move the 1 minute chart to another 5 to look back a little bit. What's below us here? Yeah, kind of that steady march up from Wednesday. So, a lot of structure, higher lows, higher highs. I'm not saying that we couldn't just shoot down, but might have some work to do to get further below the low of the day. My goodness, look at that. Okay, let's see if we can confirm 6/1961. Let's see what happens here. Oh my God. Yeah, there's no clarity on catching that move. Obviously. Let's see that. I don't know if we had something happen here. Yeah, this candle went from 162 to 212. Let's see where we find support now. A lot of time left on this candle for some clarity. SPY, July 8th, 618 puts on a firm 5-minute candle close below 6/1961. This upside to potentially catching this push down is nice, but I think if we get a firm close, this could be potentially a big move down. SPY, July 8th, 618 puts on a firm 5-minute candle close below 6/1961. Going to be watching closely to see how firm this could be. Come on. Minute 20. Wait just a little bit. Those contracts are about 167 or so right now. This might be a quick execution. Now, I'm very aware that this could also retrace, but I'm going to take this entry with the potential upside that this could plummet. July 8th. We'll see how much further down I might move contracts to the 617 puts. We'll see. 50 seconds. I'm going to move to the 617 contracts. Good Lord. Come on, wait for us. July 8th, 617 puts on a firm 5-minute candle close below 6/1961. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Buying here. I was filled at 147, and I'll put my stop in at 128. One more push down, I'll take my stop off. Stop is off, and I'll take half off here at 167. There it is again. I'll take another quarter here at 178. Stop to 165. Stop to 170. Stop to 175. Stopped. Now that was a fun trade. It took a little while for the setup to present, but what a phenomenal fast move to make over $6,000 in a minute and 18 seconds is really a treat. So let's break this trade down. First of all, this trade was an afternoon trade on July 7th. The afternoon sessions, we start 2 p.m. Eastern. And so we started on this candle right here. So knowing that, what can we make of current price action at that point? Remember, the first step in finding setups is to find your levels. Find the range that price is in currently. How do we do that? Well, if you're looking at this candle right here, the easiest way to find your levels is to look for the most recent swing low and swing high. You can see pretty clearly we had a number of touches as support right around here. So the first thing I'm going to do is mark support right there. So there we have our first level, and then we want to find what we might predict will be resistance. And so working off of this candle, we have a very clear swing high right here. And so I'm going to mark my level there. At that point, we have our predicted price range. However, as price continues to develop, we can even hone in on where our levels might be, a lower level of resistance or even a lower level of support. If we do that, we want to be sure that if price closes above it, that it has enough room to distribute to the next overarching level of resistance or underlying level of support that we can get at least part of our position off. And so we want to be careful not to narrow our range too much. But as price developed, I did see a higher level of support developing here. So I'm going to mark this level right at the bottom of those candles with a little bit of a different color. All that's telling me is I'm seeing a new level of support form. However, you can see very clearly it is really close to what I believe is true support here, because that is only about a 19-cent move, which likely wouldn't get us into a situation where we can get profit off if it does in fact react to that level again. As the session started, I started noticing from our very, very clear sell-off bearish structure, we were finding those higher lows and we were starting to test a lower level of resistance right about here. And so I'm going to mark that level with that same color for now. The difference between resistance and support at this point was that we had quite a bit more room from where resistance was developing to our overarching level of resistance. At this point, it was right around 48 cents. The reason I was looking at potential calls above 628.32 was because we in fact did have enough room to distribute to potentially get most of our positions off before we hit overarching support. At the very beginning of the live video, we were testing, and failing to close above 620.32, confirming that was a newly developing level of resistance. Once it failed and came back into range, I was watching to see how price would react back down here. Then, as you saw, we had a massive move down. Once we had a firm close, we did take out both that higher level of support that was developing and probably what would have been the true entry, which would have been this blue support line here. Would I have taken this entry on any particular trading day? Not necessarily. And the reason for that is because we moved so far down into the next range that if price retraced back up to our support level, we would already be stopped out and not protected by a retracement candle. The reason this was a clear entry for me was this. If you look left, meaning you look at price action, both in pre-market, aftermarket, prior day, prior pre-market, prior aftermarket, it took all the way until 2 days prior for price to have run into any sort of underlying level of support. Why was that important? Well, because current price action told us we have never been there before and more than likely would not run into an underlying level of support before we had fast price movement, which is exactly why I took entry right there. So once we had confirmed our levels, we had a firm 5-minute candle close below support. We bought puts. We had an incredibly fast move, which is exactly what you want as options traders. We were able to implement the risk management system. And once we bought puts, we put an automatic stop loss in. When price moved in our favor, we took our stop loss off and sold our first half of our position at around 10%. We actually didn't even have time to put our stop back on at 10% because price moved down even further. We sold a quarter of our position at about 15%. And then because we had so much room down, and just like I talked about in my prior video, one method you can use to stretch those winning trades out further is to implement that trailing stop. Because price was moving so quickly, I trailed it and it did retrace and stop us out. Overall, the trade was just under 17%, which is a fantastic trade. If you enjoyed this video, please click a like, click the link below if you'd like to follow my trades live. See you in the next video.